Welcome PPL fans, my name is PaullyMac and today I have another PPL D2 coach interview. Today I will be interviewing the coach of the Tampa Bay Luxrays and winner of the Pokemon All-Star Invitational Tournament for No Pause Tournaments #2, Monotooi.
Hi everybody, my name is Monotooi. I'm great to be here, Paul.
It's great to have you. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to get a little interview going. Talk about your draft, talk about the season coming up. And yeah, continue.
Yeah, I don't do much else with my life, so I'm glad to be here. I had plenty of time.
Yeah, it feels like that sometimes for me. Then other times it's just like, yep, crazy busy, don't have time for anything. But all right, looking at your draft, in my opinion, you have probably the most balanced draft of anyone in the D2. I went over my favorite drafts, and that was definitely my #1. Did you have a plan going in to your draft, like what you wanted to draft more than anything? Were there specific mons you needed? Like what were your strategies going into the draft?
Well, first of all, thank you for being your #1. In my draft analysis video, my personal one, my first round pick, I wanted to be either Victini, Mew, or Manaphy. Of course, Chaos got Victini and Kelly got Mew, so I was left with Manaphy, and that was fine. And I knew basically my first 4 were part of my plan: Manaphy, Excadrill, Mega Arrow, and Tangrowth. After that, the only one that was on my original plan was Heliolisk.
Oh, okay. So I know you let everyone know that yes, you got Manaphy. I heard some people like, oh, by the way, did you know Mono got Manaphy? He's letting everyone know. So.
Oh yeah, well,
Well, Manaphy's great. You got that tail glow going. Hopefully, I'm sure you'll love to get a few sweeps of Manaphy this year. Excadrill is a great mon in the format. You can run it defensively. You can put Stealth Rocks on it. Great spinner. Great offensive presence as well. Mega Aerodactyl is a mega that's becoming a lot more popular lately. It gets some decent coverage moves like Aqua Tail and stuff like that. A lot of people talk about its lack of reliable stab.
Yeah, it has a huge physical move pool. And another thing that I really love about Manaphy, one of the reasons I like to brag about it, is it beats almost every other bulky Pokemon. For example, Chansey, I can run Calm Mind, Rain Dance, and I can ignore statuses and just rest off the damage and wake up immediately and set up all over it. Even Unaware Clefable I can beat. It's just such a versatile mon. It can really take on really all types of playstyles, from offense to stall.
Oh yeah, it doesn't really matter what you're running. It's hard unless you're running an Unaware mon. It is tough to take down or take hits from a mon who's at +6 and has a base 100 special attack stat like Manaphy.
Yep.
And then after you got those 3 really good offensive threats with some great versatility, you go and get some real bulk in Tangrowth and Togetic. 2 mons that are really going to take a lot of hits for you this year.
Oh yeah, I was really happy with the Tangrowth pick because it has a very diverse move pool. I think bigger than a lot of people give it credit for. Like, it gets access to Sludge Wave, Sludge Bomb, Poison Jab, Earthquake, Rock Slide. It's really just, it can be insanely physically defensive. I can throw an Assault Vest on it to take special hits, can knock off items. It just does a lot for me. And another thing that I like about my draft is I have a lot of potential weather that I can run and just run random weather things. Like Manaphy, obviously, with the Rain Dance, Excadrill with the Sand. And Tangrowth does have access to Chlorophyll.
Oh yeah, I did see Chlorophyll Tangrowth did actually get brought in PPL Season 1 by D-Don Fanatic. He brought a Chlorophyll Tangrowth with a Sunny Day Cresselia to counter a Sand team, so I'd love to see you bring Chlorophyll Tangrowth at least once. You also have Heliolisk, who has solar power, and he would love to benefit from that sun as well.
Yep, solar power and Drive Skin, 2 very good abilities.
Absolutely. Heliolisk is just, he thrives on any weather team you want to throw, except for Hail, but no one runs Hail because reasons.
Yeah, no, Hail's dumb.
Absolutely. So you got your Fast Electric and Heliolisk. Fighting Stab is another very important part of any draft format, and you got Hariyama, which you can run Thick Fat if you need it to be a fire or ice counter, or Guts, of course, and that's a great way to eat up status. Was Hariyama one you were kind of thinking like throughout the draft, or was it just like, I need a fighting type, Hariyama? Like, what was your thought with that pick?
I knew I did want a fighting type going into it. I was actually thinking about Conkeldurr for a while because Conkeldurr at the time was still available.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, I have a little bit of ice weakness with Togetic, Tangrowth, and Mega Arrow.
Mm-hmm.
Not that it's a huge issue, but Hariyama kind of makes up for that with ice or with thick fat.
Mm-hmm.
Also, in some ways, I think it's a little bit better than Conkeldurr, based not only off price because it's under half the price of Conkeldurr,
Mm-hmm.
but its ability to get stab, close combat, can hit things a little bit harder than Drain Punch. I believe it's a little bit bulkier with an Assault Vest. It was the price that sold it for me because it's about as good as Conkeldurr, but half the price, and that was just something that really turned me onto it.
Yeah, absolutely. It gets a lot of the same moves that Conkeldurr does. The only difference between the two really is the close combat for Hariyama and Drain Punch for Conk. And Conk does get the Drain Punch, which is like, oh yeah, it gets recovery, which you want a Pokemon. Hariyama doesn't get that recovery, but at the same time, it's there to just hit things. And it has a lot of ways to hit a lot of different things.
Yeah, obviously it doesn't get the stab priority, which priority is a bit of an issue for my team, but I think I can deal with it.
Oh yeah, Bullet Punch can still be solid, and it is priority that hits fairies, which is definitely solid to have.
Mm-hmm.
Then looking after that, you got Uxie, which I'm sure I don't know if you watched any Shrooms battles last year, but Shroom used Uxie very wonderfully. Do you expect to use Uxie a lot? Was Uxie something you really wanted, or was it just kind of, like I said, with Hariyama, was it just kind of like, I need this type, I want this? Like, what was your mindset with that one?
Uxie is a Pokemon I plan to use often, and I think it's going to work out very well for me, because the thing with things like Manaphy, or hard hitters like Excadrill, Mega Aerodactyl, or even things like Chandelure or Hariyama, is they have very few switch-ins, and being able to get something like a slow U-turn off into them is going to be devastating for other teams. Not only that, but it's a great status passer, or status inflictor. I can run T-Wave, Toxic, I can set up Stealth Rocks if I want to. It's a really good glue mod for my team. And at the time, I was lacking a little bit of U-turn, so this is definitely going to help me out a lot.
Yeah, you do now have that Volt Turn, Heliolisk, and Uxie. Uxie does have a lot of versatility. You can use it as just pure utility. You can run a Calm Mindset. We even saw Recycle used on it last year in the D1. And it's just a lot of different things you can do with Uxie, so I'm excited to see what you do with it. Your last two picks, you went with Chandelure and Drapion. And I know you addressed on Twitter that some people were like, oh, you could have gone with Hippowdon. Hippowdon you could have paired it with Excadrill. That'd be amazing to have the Sand Rush. But you went with Chandelure and Drapion, which are two really solid picks. Chandelure is a great fire type, gives you a fire immunity for help with Excadrill and Tangrowth. That also added with the thick fat from Hariyama and Manaphy. The fire types aren't really going to bother you much, which is something good in the format. And then Drapion, the last pick, gives you a solid poison type that only has one weakness. So why'd you go with those two picks to end the draft?
Well, originally, instead of picking up Chandelure, I was actually going to go with Nidoking because, surprisingly to me, it was still around. But Juan picked it, I believe, 5 or so turns before me, so that was kind of unfortunate. But I was looking for fire types, and actually at the time I had forgotten completely about Chandelure. Like, I was like, oh, what's left? I could pick up Magmortar because I do like Magmortar. Mm-hmm. And then I saw Chandelure, and I instantly knew that I wanted it because it's a decent spin blocker, with the ghost type and all that. Mm-hmm. It has the highest special attack of any regular Mon in OU or in standard play, aside from the newly released Hoopa forms, which aren't even allowed in this format currently. Mm-hmm. So that's a big reason why I wanted Chandelure. Also, the fire immunity is also very useful. If my opponent doesn't have a fire type, like someone like Kelly or whoever else doesn't have a fire type, I don't feel like going through the whole list, I can run something like Infiltrator and hit things behind the sub. It's just a really good Pokemon. It's not the fastest with base 80, but it does the job I needed to well. It's also not frail. Like, I can run it bulky if I wanted to.
Oh, absolutely. Bulky, especially bulky Chandelure is definitely a thing that you can actually take some do some switching in with Chandelure on it. A lot of special mons. He has decent typing and has a lot of special bulk. You can run a Calm Mindset and add to that special bulk. Definitely go on that side. Drapion, on the other hand, is very physically bulky and a decently high physical attacker. So why did you want Drapion?
Well, the biggest reason I wanted Drapion was actually kind of to complement my previous pick in Chandelure. With Drapion, I now have the ability to partially hazard stack with Toxic Spikes. I do, of course, have a Rapid Spinner and Chandelure. I don't really have anything to punish Defog, but that's not the worst thing in the world. Also, looking at my team, I did kind of need a switch into knockoff because my only resistances are Togetic, which obviously I don't want to lose the Eviolite, and Hariyama, which I kind of need my Assault Vest a lot of the time. So I wanted a more reliable switch in the knockoff. It doesn't really punish my opponent for going for knockoff. Like, I still lose my item, which kind of sucks, but it's definitely going to be something that can take it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You don't want to have to like run Colbur Berry Uxie to be your switch into knockoff every week. So definitely having a physically defensive dark type like Drapion is definitely a great switch into knockoff. All right, so do you think there's anything on your team that you really was there anything that you maybe got sniped from you other than Nidoking, which you already said? Or was there something that you really feel like you needed in your draft that you didn't get? Is there something maybe missing you wish you had?
With my draft, I don't think there's anything I necessarily needed. Like, I pretty much got everything I wanted other than Nidoking. But even then, Chandelure is probably equally as good for my team, you know, with the fire type and the spin blocker and all that. The only thing I would like is another ground type, because when my offensive core is going to heavily be Manaphy, Mega Aerodactyl a lot of the time, I really want that ground type to switch into them to really make them regret going for that electric move. I know I have Excadrill, but Excadrill with that secondary typing is weak to a lot of electric types' other unstab moves. For example, Rotom Heat is not even unstab, can hit me with an Overheat. Raikou gives access to Aura Sphere. The Thunder's forms that get access to Focus Blast and Superpower, so that can kind of be an issue. Basically, I wish I picked up something that could handle electric types a little bit better.
Yeah, that's definitely something you can maybe look into free agency. I mean, you got your transfer weeks come like at any time. If there's anything not working out, you can definitely look there. So with that in mind, with what you think, you have a lot of great things with your team. You do think you have that one issue. What team are you most afraid of to face? Like, which team matches up well against you, or you're just like you're scared to face that team?
The team that matches up best against me, and the team I'm probably going to have the most trouble with, would probably be Carter. Really, just because there are a few mons on there that completely rip through me. Like, for example, Mega Gardevoir. I don't really have switch-ins to. I can try and predict around it with an Excadrill, but then I risk taking a Focus Blast. Uxie does not really want to switch in. It has Hyper Voice / Psyshock for Chandelure. Drapion doesn't want to take a Hyper Voice. It's just really scary for my team. Sizzlor, of course, is always a threat. It can knock out my Aerodactyl with a Bullet Punch in one hit. The stab bug coverage it gets hits my Tangrowth. It has superpower for... I apologize. It has superpower for Drill. It can just really do a lot of damage. And then Roserade, I just have nothing for. I can Revenge kill it, but I really can't switch into it.
Yeah, that's
same with Crawdon, really.
Oh yeah, well there's not a lot that switches into Crawdon except for maybe Drapion, but then you risk it going for Dragon Dance. But yeah, Mega Gardevoir. Not many teams have switches to Mega Gardevoir. Like probably the closest thing you have to a switch into Mega Gardevoir would be Togetic, and even in that case, like that's not the greatest switch in anyways because it doesn't resist the Hyper Voice.
Yeah, and I do have Tangrowth for the Crawdon, but even that, I mean, it gets Sludge Wave. You could do that.
Yeah, it's true. All right, with that in mind, what teams are you most excited to face? Whether they're one of your friends or something from the league that you're really excited to face them or battle on, or maybe a team you match up really well against. Who are you most excited to face?
I think I'm actually most excited to face Juan, who I'm playing week 1. Just because, not because I have a decent matchup for it, but because I'm really excited to see what Mega Aerodactyl is going to do to it, because I'm looking at it and I don't see any switch-ins.
Oh yeah, it's like some of his biggest defensive threats are very, like his biggest defensive mon really is Chestnut, and that's dual weak to stab from Mega Aerodactyl, and then Gastrodon, which, I mean, Gastrodon can, I guess, switch into it. Maybe?
Yeah, Gastrodon is the only thing that can switch into it. Yeah. Everything else, I have the chance to OHKO.
Exactly.
Or like a physically defensive Claydol.
Exactly, and you have easy switches to Gastrodon. Like you have Tangrowth who can come in against it. You have Manaphy, which there's not a lot that Gastrodon can really do to Manaphy, and Manaphy does get Energy Balls. So you do have ways to deal with a Gastrodon. That's really the only thing that does deal with Mega Aerodactyl on his team.
Yep. Another team I'm looking forward to play would probably be Kelly, just because I want to rub Manaphy in his face.
Yes, we even mentioned it in his interview. Like, we were like, oh yeah, by the way, Mono does have a Manaphy, and he's like, ugh. So yeah, I definitely would love to see that. I'm excited to see you two go at it. It'd be a great battle. He has a lot of bulk, and you two have a decent, like a pretty good amount of offense there. So that'd be a really good matchup that I'd love to see.
Yep.
All right, so that should do it. Thank you for taking time once again. Thank you for joining me in this interview.
Yep, not a problem. Glad to be here.
All right. Stay tuned for more PPL coach interviews as well as other PPL content that will be coming soon. Battles start next week, so be ready for that. Check the coaches' channels. All the D2 coaches are in the description below. And you all have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Bye.